Welcome everyone to episode 26 of the What Sales and Marketing Got to Do with It podcast. My name is Gemma Adair, founder and principal marketing consultant at Riata Consultancy. This podcast aims to delve deep into the minds of sales and marketing industry leaders, uncovering what keeps them up at night, what drives their passion, and how they execute successful strategies in both their personal and professional lives. I'm delighted to welcome Liz Drury. She is a voiceover artist at Liz Drury Voiceovers. Welcome, Liz. Lovely to have you on the podcast today.
Thank you very much for having me. So whenever I meet people at networking meetings and I tell them what I do, they always say, well, voiceover, that's really interesting, but what do you do? So here's a little rundown of some of the things that I do. So I record voiceover for all sorts of different things. So I narrate a lot of video content that explains or promotes people's products or services that they're going to use on their website or their social media or at trade shows, etc. This morning I recorded a radio advert, so I do some commercial work. I'm the voice of lots of company phone systems, so you might have been on hold with me. Just let me speak to a real person. And I narrate a lot of e-learning content for online training courses and all sorts of other bits and bobs as well. So it's quite varied actually, but I do it all from my little home studio for clients around the world. That's the beauty of the internet, isn't it?
Oh, that's perfect. And I see how that can add so much value to the marketing mix of things, campaigns, events, all across the board.
Absolutely.
So there's so much that being a voiceover, recording different sort of content can add so much value to marketing managers and marketing functions and what they do. When and where did you begin your marketing journey, or should I say the voiceover artist journey?
The voiceover artist journey, it goes back quite a long way, actually. I used to, I was a student at university doing a PhD in archaeological science. And I was looking at things like tars and resins that were used as glues and waterproofing agents during the Middle Stone Age, the Mesolithic period. And amongst these finds were lumps of tar with human tooth impressions in that people are kind of half jokingly referred to as prehistoric chewing gum. So I analysed some of these pieces of prehistoric chewing gum to find out what they were made of. And then I wrote an article about them for a magazine called British Archaeology. And I think it must have been a slow news week because the press got hold of this story. And for about a week, I was in continual demand. And my work was reported on the front page of the Times, the Telegraph, the Observer, the Mail, the Mirror. I was interviewed on Radio 1, Radio 5 Live, Radio 4, loads of local radio stations. And the university where I was had a little recording studio, and it had a connection there to the radio station, so I could be at the university and speak to people down in London, and it would sound like I was in the studio with them. And I remember waiting for one of these interviews to start and sitting behind this microphone and thinking, this is really fun. I'd really like to do some more of this. So I think that's kind of where the seed was sown. And after I'd finished my PhD, I moved to North Lincolnshire, which is where I still am now. And there used to be this really local cable TV station near to me. And I started off working there as a volunteer, and eventually had my own program that went out live twice a week. So I did some TV presenting and I did some voiceover work as part of my job there, though I'd never actually had any formal training in either of those things. And left there to have my kids, intending to go back. And while I was off, the business got sold. So there was no job to go back to. So I had quite a big gap then. And I worked at a sixth form college, making links between the college and local business community. And then at the end of 2011, my husband, who is in the chemical industry, was asked to go and work in the States for a couple of years. So we moved out to near Baltimore, and he was going to work and the kids were going to school. And so I was at a bit of a loose end. So I used the opportunity to train. So I went to college and I studied acting and singing, which are two things that I loved doing, but had never had any, formal training in. And then I saw this course advertised. It was called Acting for the Camera. And I thought, oh, it'd be fun to get back in front of a camera again. Went along to this evening class and only 4 people showed up. So the tutor said, she said, well, I've got things planned, but because there's only a few of you, tell me what you're interested in and we'll tailor the course to you guys. So I said to her, well, I've had some experience of voiceover, but I've got no idea how I go about actually taking that any further. And it turned out she did some voiceover work, so she was able to help me and point me in the right direction. And she put me in touch with a friend of hers who runs a recording studio, and he produces a lot of corporate videos, e-learning, that kind of thing, and sometimes needs British accents for his work. So I did some work for him. And she told me about some websites for freelance voiceover artists where you have a profile and clients will post a job online and you audition for it. And I joined a couple of those. I started to get a bit of work and realized I was only going to get more work and better paid work if I had a properly produced demo to market myself with.
Yeah.
So I then sort of looked around for who could help me with that and came across a company called Edge Studio, who are an audio production house, actually, initially based in New York. And they were struggling to get good voiceover artists. So they decided to train them. And now they have this big training element to their business.
Mm.
And so I signed up with them and I did training with them with in person with coaches that were in Washington, D.C., because that wasn't far from me. And some of it via Skype back then, sort of before Zoom, with coaches who were in New York, and they helped me make my first demos. I got my work permit. I started my business in America, and then when my husband's contract finished out there, we moved back here. I brought a new career home with me.
Oh, that's awesome. Oh, wow. Do you have a preference, the US to the UK?
I think now, yeah, I've been back quite a long time,
Mm.
and I'm happy here. And when we moved back, it was like, oh, I'm really going to miss the States. And then Donald Trump came to power, and maybe it wouldn't be quite so good while he was there. But no, we did love it. We did love it. And I mean, but of course, all the family are back over here. And that would have been difficult, leaving family behind on a permanent basis.
No, that's interesting. Very interesting story. Along your journey to this point, do you think you faced any challenges? And if you have faced any challenges, what were they and how did you overcome them?
Yeah, a few challenges. I think
Yeah.
when you're starting out, there's so much to do, isn't there? You need to build a website, you need to build your social media presence. In my case, I needed to make demos to showcase my voice. And it's just like, what do I do first? And I
Yeah.
think it's just a case of, just putting one foot in front of the other and doing one thing and then moving on to another thing. And eventually you get all the things done. But it does feel overwhelming to start with. So that next thing that was an issue was I had a job at a sixth form college before we went to live in America, and they had very kindly kept my job open for me so I could go back to it when we came home.
Mm.
So I knew that I'd got to go back to work when we returned from the US, and I only did 15 hours a week, so it was okay to start with. I could do my work there, and then the days that when I wasn't at college, I could grow my voiceover business. But it was starting to get to the point where I was getting more busy in the voiceover. Oh dear, excuse me. And I'd be getting home from work and then having to do more work on the voiceover and working late into the night. And actually, in the end, I was actually made redundant from the college. And it was actually quite
Mm.
good in a way because I had got to the point where I was struggling to fit everything in. And, I would get a job coming, I'd get an email on my phone while I was at work saying, can you record this? I was thinking, oh, I can, but not for a couple of hours because I've got to finish here and then get home and set up and so on. So it's kind of a relief in a way that I got made redundant because that gave me obviously the time that I needed to focus on my own business and to grow it properly.
No, that sounds amazing. And I think sometimes when things come up, you've just got to kind of turn it into from a negative into a positive, kind
Mm.
of see the opportunity rather than it being
Yeah,
um,
absolutely.
yeah. Well, so what does a day in the life look like? And I think it might be good to just kind of get some insight as to who you liaise with from organizations. Is it operations? Is it sales? Is it marketing? What does that look like? Yeah, take us through that.
Well, every day is different. And usually on a Monday morning, I will wake up unemployed, not knowing what is coming that week, because voiceover is generally the last part of a project, and so you don't get hired
Mm.
until the last minute. So this morning, for example, this radio advert was a bit of a rush job, but I didn't know that was coming until I got a phone call from the from the audio engineer saying, "I've got this advert. Can you do it for me?
Ah.
Can you do it like quite soon?" Other things I get a bit more of a lead time on. So something like a big e-learning project, I sometimes know for a few weeks
Mm.
in advance that it's coming, though I might not know exactly when it's coming. Um, because scripts have to go through often so many sign-offs from different
Mm.
people, and it's not till they get that last signature on the bit of paper they can then send it to me and say, yeah, go ahead and record. And the people that I deal with, it's really, really varied, because I've worked for all sorts of different sizes of business, from solopreneurs through to multinational corporations.
Mm.
So in those cases, I tend to be working for a middleman. So it might be for a video production company, for
Right.
example, that the big company is hired to make something for them, and then they will outsource the voiceover to me. I might be working with instructional designers who are creating online courses. I might be working with people from telecoms companies who are installing phone systems, and then they partner with me so I can record the voicemail greetings and on-hold messages for their clients. So it's kind of not, it's sort of difficult to sort of pinpoint who it is I work for, because it's all sorts of different people. They might be people in marketing or advertising. They might be in sales. It depends on the company really, and who it is that they trust to go source their voices.
Makes a lot of sense. Is there an area perhaps that you work in or in what you do that you perhaps like the least or like the most? So maybe take the what do you like the least? Is there a part of it that you like the least and why?
Like the least. Well, sometimes scripts can be a bit dull. So, I've voiced a lot of things like health and safety videos, for example. So I don't dislike it, but there are more exciting things to talk about.
Yeah.
So, and things that I really love doing would be, documentary narration, audio tours for museums, because those are always so interesting. I learn stuff while I'm doing it. And people often ask, oh, what's the most unusual thing you've done? And there's
That's
a
a good
couple.
question.
There's a
Yes.
couple that spring to mind. One is a couple of years ago, I was hired to provide a narration to go with a soundtrack that went alongside a sculpture that was on display in York Minster. So
Oh.
that was something that was really different. So this sculpture was made of lots of little pieces of broken glass that have then been wired together in the shape of a wave, and it was hanging down from the ceiling in York Minster. And so my narration was talking about how it was made and why it was made and what it represented, and who'd made it and that kind of thing. So that was really interesting. And the other one that was really fun, I was the voice of a train that was taking children to see Father Christmas at a local farm park.
Okay.
So really
What was
random,
that
really
like?
fun. It was really, it was really good, and it came about actually from I had been nominated for an award, and I went to the awards night, and I was sitting next to a guy who runs the farm park and also runs another business actually, and I think that's the business he was there for. It's something to do with pallets. And we got chatting, and we swapped cars. Then a few weeks later, he contacted me and said, we've got this project. We're putting together our sort of Christmas extravaganza, and would you be the voice of this train? So I said, yeah, that'd be brilliant. And then I said, oh, can I come and see how it turns out? So they said, oh yeah, by all means, you come along. And my kids at the time were probably sort of mid-teens. They're like, no, we don't want to go to any farm parks. So my husband and I went, and it was brilliant. We went towards the end of the day, and the train turned out to not be a train exactly. It was a room that the children went into, and there was a projector. And so when you looked at the screen, it looked like you were on a train in the Alps or somewhere, with all this snow around. You were going down this twisty train track, and there was an elf who was the conductor, and the elf was having a conversation with the train, which was me. So it was really funny. So the elf was there in real life, but conversing with the recorded me as the voice of the train, and I was saying things like, "Oh, hurry up, children, and get on board," and sort of thing. It was great. I loved it.
Which leads me to my next question. In terms of like hearing back your voice and listening to your own voice, one might say, "Oh gosh, what's that like?" But I'm assuming that you may have kind of got used to the sound of your
Yeah,
own voice because of hearing
exactly.
back and recording. Yeah, take us through that.
Yeah.
That's
So,
interesting.
so many people say that when I meet them, they say, "Oh, I really hate hearing the sound of my voice when it's recorded." And I'll say to them, it doesn't sound bad. That is what you sound like to other people. And they're like, "Oh, it's awful. It's awful." It's not like no one has said to you, "Oh, you've got a really awful voice, have you?" And they're like, "No." Well, because you haven't. And I think it's because the way we experience our own voices is sort of more internal. It's coming from our chest and it's resonating, within the spaces within our head. Whereas other people are just hearing what's coming out of our mouth, and it is a very different sound. And I think, yeah, I am just used to it now. I don't really think about it anymore. I'm just, because I spend all day, every day
Just
listening to my own voice. But the funny thing is, if I occasionally come across my voice in the wild, sometimes it does take a second to register that that is me. Um, I've done things where I've rung up a company forgetting that I'm the voice of their phone system. And if I've been put on hold, I'm like, "Oh, wait a minute. Oh, yeah, that's me." I've done so many, I forget which companies I've done them for now.
Oh
So
gosh.
it was to surprise me.
Do people ever come to you and say, "Oh, Liz, I listened to you today," like when I came
Sometimes,
across,
yes,
yeah.
sometimes they do.
Given sort of the sector that you're in or what you do, how do you stay up to date with what's happening in the market? Is that relevant to you? Like
Mm.
just to kind of critique your craft or like what does that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I've just come back from spending a weekend at a voiceover conference in London, which it's an annual event, and there's always speakers talking about what the current trends are, and what you should be looking out for. So that's kind of how I sort of stay up to date with what's going on, and and listening to what's out there as well, and you're listening to what adverts are on the telly at the moment, and because I know quite a lot of people in the industry now, I'll say to my husband, "Oh, I think I know who that is."
Oh,
Who advert.
interesting. Right.
But yeah, I mean, the landscape does change for sure. I mean, it used to be, some years ago that, well, quite a few years ago now, where all we heard was sort of very RP voices, received pronunciation, and you wouldn't really hear sort of more local accents, regional accents. Whereas now, regional accents are everywhere,
Yeah.
and the style is very much more relaxed. It's not as formal as it used to be. And when you see casting briefs or auditions, they're always saying, "We don't want you to sound like an announcer. We want you to sound like a real person. We want this to sound conversational." And that's sort of very much what's in at the moment.
Gotcha. I was just going to say on the kind of briefs or the projects that you work on, is there an option for you to kind of like make some suggestions, recommendations? Oh, have you thought about doing this or that? Is there room to kind of,
Sometimes,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah.
sometimes it can be a collaborative approach. It depends. I mean, if you're dealing with something where it's been through several layers of management to get it signed off, you can't change a
Mm,
word of it,
yeah,
even if you're
yeah.
thinking, I'm not sure that sounds quite right." On the other hand, I do quite a bit of work with people from other countries, particularly in Europe, so the Netherlands, Germany, Scandinavia, and so on. And they will often say to me, here's the script, but it has been translated from another language. And so if
Okay.
you've got something that you don't think is quite right, please feel free to make it sound right in your language. And I know in that case that I've got a bit of leeway to change the sentence structure around or whatever, as long as I'm
Mm,
not taking the meaning of it, of course. But just so that it sounds more natural, that does happen quite a lot.
that makes sense. And if someone, young person or someone perhaps wanted to just explore being a voiceover artist or like any advice that you could give them. to kind of explore that area of work?
Yeah, absolutely. There's a couple of places actually that I would recommend to people. Two websites. One's called Voiceover Kickstart, run by Guy Michaels, and the other is Gravy for the Brain, which is a weird name, I know.
Ooh.
But both of those platforms are all about helping voiceover artists and helping them to get off the ground. Gravy for the Brain has got hundreds of hours of video content now. Online courses to take people sort of from beginner through, sort of through their career. So I always recommend that people have a look at those places to start with, and then to try and find a coach to work with, because when you're starting out, you don't really know how you sound to other people,
Yeah,
um, and you don't know where your voice might fit in the grand scheme of things. You might have a great voice for doing cartoons, where I don't. That's really not my thing at all. I'm sort of very much more on the corporate side of things. And when you're starting out, you don't, as I say, you don't really know where you fit. And it's not until you've done a few auditions, you've got booked for things, and then you start to see a pattern. Okay, I'm getting booked a lot for that particular genre. That's what I should be, concentrating
doing.
on. But if you work with a coach, they should be able to help you work out what your niche is and where your voice is going to fit, what you're going to be good for.
No, there's some great tips and advice there for anyone wanting to kind of explore and expand into the sector. Um, if we take back when you were younger, what did you want to be when you grew up?
What did I want to be? Well, my mum was a school teacher, and I think I used to want to be a school teacher as well when I was growing up. And then when I got a bit older, I thought, no, I really don't want to be doing that. So, I don't think I've ever really known what it was I wanted to do. I love what I'm doing now, but it's not what I ever thought I would be
What are you
doing.
doing?
And when I was at school, I did A levels in the sciences. I did maths, physics, and chemistry, and I went on to university to study physics. And I thought that I wanted to go into science. And after about a year, I knew that I didn't want to do I didn't want to do physics. That really wasn't my thing at all. And I changed course and I did natural sciences. So I still did physics actually, but I also did archaeology from a
Archaeology.
scientific point of view, which led on to the PhD I talked about earlier on. And when I started my PhD, I thought I wanted to be an academic and, be a lecturer at the university. And by the end, having seen what my supervisor had to do day in, day out, I thought, no, that's really not for me either. So I've always I've never had a job yet through any kind of normal means. I've never done the application, interview, job offer. Just never happened. It's always things have just kind of come to me and things have fallen in my lap. So the TV studio, I started there as a volunteer, and then they said, "Oh, there's this job. Do you want it?" Um,
Oh,
that's how that happened. And after I left there, the job at the sixth form college came about because I got chatting to somebody at a concert.
oh
And they said, "Oh, I've got,
wow.
got something at the college you might be interested in. Please send me your CV." So
Brilliant.
yeah, it's just yeah, I've never taken a conventional route, I don't think.
Don't know if you'd want to.
No, maybe not.
I don't know if you'd want to. Um, work-life balance. So take us through that. What does work-life balance sort of mean to you right now? What does that look like in what you
Yeah, I mean
do?
it's changed. My kids have now left home, so it is very different. When the children were younger, I worked on a part-time basis before we went to America, and then when we came back, as I explained earlier, I went back to my job and then was building my voiceover business. But I wasn't really working in the evenings or at the weekends because that was time to do stuff with them. Well, to take them places basically to all their
Oh
activities.
yeah.
Um, as I say, they've left home now, and I'd got to the point where I was, I'd get up in the morning, my husband would go to work, I'd walk the dog, and then I'd sit down at my desk at sort of quarter past, 8:30. And I've stopped doing that now, actually, since I started learning a brass instrument, which I've been learning
Yes.
learning since the summer. What I do now, if I get back from walking the dog at quarter past, 8:30, I practice till 9 o'clock. I thought,
Oh,
why am I starting work this early? because I don't really get many emails before 9 o'clock. I don't need to
Yeah.
start that early. I can do what I like. I'm I'm my own boss. So right,
Yeah.
I can do something for myself before I start work now. So that's now the start to my day is playing my baritone horn.
Oh wow. It's nice because you kind of before people tend to like run the rat race or like I think naturally a lot of people, including myself, we just kind of go, right, let's get into work. Let's, the morning's here and let's crack
Yeah,
on with it. But I think to your point, it's really important to kind of take that time out and do something that kind of gives you that bit of energy that you're passionate about to kind of start your day in the best way without feeling you have to,
yeah.
yeah.
Yeah, definitely. And I always make time for exercise as well. I always have. And that's something that I don't really compromise on. I won't miss an exercise class to
That's
do a
brilliant.
recording. I'll do the recording when I get back from the class if I have to, but I always try and fit the exercise in because I always feel so much better for it. And if I don't do it, I know I don't feel so good.
Yeah. Is there a particular exercise class that you do when you're
I
doing
do
exercise?
I do all sorts of things actually. So tonight I'm going ballroom dancing with my husband.
Oh, lovely. Oh,
We also
brilliant.
We also do a bit of jive dancing, though that class isn't on at the moment. I walk my dog, of course. I do canicross running with my dog. I do a circuits class. I do an aerobics class. I do a step aerobics class. I don't manage to get to everything every week, but I always
Yeah.
do, sort of several things in a week. So yeah,
Oh,
most days I'm doing something.
that's really good. Really good to be active. I like how you kind of approach work-life balance and yeah, that's really great. Is there somebody that inspires you, whether dead or alive?
Oh gosh, lots of people inspire me. It's having come back from this conference at the weekend, there are definitely plenty of people there that inspire me. And we had a great keynote speaker on Friday night who was Lewis MacLeod, if you've heard of Lewis MacLeod. He does a lot of impersonations and he's on things like Dead Ringers and just so talented. And then one of the presenters of the conference is Peter Dixon, who's the voice of the X Factor, amongst other things. And
Ah,
our keynote on the Saturday was supposed to be Brian Blessed, and unfortunately he got COVID and couldn't come. But they always bring some really great people to the conference. Yeah, we've had Alan Dedico, we've had all sorts of different people over the years. Um, Oh, Hugh Bonneville, we had one year. He was really, he was really
ah.
a good speaker. So I do get inspired by other people in my industry, who are quite a few steps ahead of me, I would say. But equally, it can be just as inspiring to meet people who are perhaps not at the same level as you. And there was this lovely
Mm.
lad that I met at the conference this weekend who is blind, completely blind, and he is starting out in the voiceover industry. And we had a karaoke competition on Friday night, and there were some amazing singers. I sang very early on in the evening before many people came in the room. They were all still in the bar. I thought I'm going to get my
Oh,
song out of the way.
amazing.
But this blind lad got up and sang, and even though he really was no singer at all, everybody was just right behind him. There was such singing of love in
Oh,
the
that's
room. It was
brilliant.
great, and he was really inspiring. Just to you get up there and do that.
Just out of curiosity, when you do sing, what genre? Is there a particular song that you
Well, my
um
go-to for karaoke is "Nobody Does It Better" by Carly Simon.
oh, that's a nice song. That is a really nice song. Yeah. Oh, good pick. Good pick. What is your passion in life and what drives you?
Oh, what's my passion in life? That's a good one, isn't it? I'm really passionate about my work. But it's not the only thing in my life, and I do so many things as you've just heard. Um,
Yeah.
I'm a member of a couple of different amateur theatre groups, and I love getting on the stage. One we had a rehearsal last night. We're rehearsing a murder mystery, and it's just such fun. It is just playing with your mates. Um,
Oh, that's
that's
so cool.
that's a really good thing to be involved with. I sing with a ladies' choir. I love doing that. Yeah, and I'm just involved in lots of
A
different
lot of
things.
different things.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. That's really good. No, it's great to have that kind of variety and get out there and just
Mm.
do what you love and kind of be around people that inspire you and so on. That's great. Where do you see yourself in 5 years?
Well, I would still love to be doing what I'm doing. I would love to get more of the work that I really like. So the things like the audio tours for museums or the documentaries. But yeah, I'd like to still be doing what I'm doing and doing all the other stuff that I'm doing as well. Um, and my husband is 55 now, and as I said, the kids have gone. So I think we sort of need to start thinking about what the future is going to look like beyond the next 5 years, actually, and start sort of putting
Yeah,
some plans in place. I keep saying that to him. I can't believe we've got to that stage of our lives already. It's
gotta
scary.
make a plan.
But the nice thing about voiceover, as long as your voice still sounds all right, it's something you can keep doing into your 80s if you wanted to. And there's sort of no reason why I should stop as long as the work is still coming. Um,
Yes.
and I'd be happy to do that. Maybe not do quite so much of the marketing and kind of slow down in a few years' time so I can take more holidays. That's what I want to be
Yeah.
doing, taking more holidays.
Taking more holidays sounds like a plan. You mentioned holidaying there now. What would a holiday be to you? What would it look like? What's your
Yeah,
yeah.
I am not a sit on a beach kind of person. If I'm going to go somewhere, I want to go and see it, and see all the sights and the history and visit lots of places. So last year was our silver wedding anniversary, and we went to Italy. I'd never been to Italy before, and we were only there for a week, but we packed so much in, and every day we were visiting a different place and doing a different thing. I can't sit still and read a book. That's just not me.
So a very sort of city tour, like sites,
Yeah,
history, that kind of thing.
exactly. Yeah, being active and the food, of course, local food. That's got to put and wine,
Mm.
definitely the wine.
Mine as well. What do you want to be remembered by?
Oh, what do I want to be remembered by? I think I would like to be remembered for being helpful to people, making a difference to them. And my strap line is that I'm easy on the ears, and I like to think that I'm easy to work with as well.
Hmm,
So yeah, that's what I'd like to be remembered for, being helpful and easy to work with.
that's brilliant. That's brilliant. And if you had a chance to look back, speak to your younger self, what would you say to them or what advice would you give to them?
Mm, I think I would say, don't sweat the small stuff and it'll all work out in the end. I think when I was younger, I was sort of very uptight about, getting good results in my GCSEs and good results in my A levels and then a good result at the university and working really, really hard and maybe missed out some of the fun a little bit.
Mm,
And now I kind of know a bit more about how the world works. And yes, it's important to get your exams, but they're not the be all and end all. And plenty of people that fail their exams are still doing really well in their lives.
exactly.
And it maybe doesn't matter as much as you think it does.
No, that's sound advice for your younger self for sure. If you had a chance to be a superhero or have superpowers, what would that be and why?
I think I'd love to be able to fly. I think that'd be great. Just to be able to, sort of see the world from up above. Yeah, that'll be my superpower, flying for sure. I think sometimes I have that dream where you can fly. Have you had that dream where you can fly? I think a lot of people have that. And also really disappointing when you wake up and you think, oh, I can't actually fly.
Oh gosh, and you could fly to places and
Yeah, the world.
be there instead of an hour or two, it might take you half an
Yeah.
hour,
Oh,
maybe
yeah.
15 minutes, something like that.
Mm. Teleportation,
Amazing.
that would be great as well, wouldn't it? Just be there.
Be there and you could travel, you could go to Europe and you could
Yeah.
travel and do all sorts and bring your husband with you.
Yeah.
Yes,
I'm
along
a
the way
dog.
with you and your dog. If you had a chance to ask the audience a question, what would that be?
Ooh, what will I ask the audience? I think just how can I best serve you? What can I do for you that would make your life better?
Very good question. Do you have any final words that you would like to share now that we're concluding the podcast?
Um, check out my website. And I have a podcast too, which you've been a guest on, Gemma, which is
Yes,
Small
yes.
Business Big Network. So I'm always looking for great guests, and you were a great guest, I have to say. So yeah,
Thank you.
if anyone else is interested in being on the Small Business Big Network podcast, then get in touch with me and we can have a chat about that.
Perfect. And what I will do is when I promote this podcast, I will share your details so people can connect with you, sign up to the podcast, get in touch, that kind of thing. So,
Perfect.
but thank you so much, Liz, for your time today. And it's been really interesting to understand a bit more about the day in the life of a voiceover artist for sure. And yeah, just thank you so much for the nuggets. Thank you for taking us through your journey. It's been really insightful. Yeah, for
Thank you very
sure.
much.
Thank you and have a good day.
Thanks, Gemma. Take care.
Take care. Bye.